The 2021 MLB season is here, and although the seats may not be full, your bankroll has the chance to be. Greg Hoops Peterson has you covered for every game, every day this season, along with comprehensive analysis and angles for getting to the window while celebrating the walk-off winners and blown saves of what will be a wild season. Now it is time for the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. We've got a great podcast for you. It's in the second segment. We're going to be joined by Anthony Latino. You know him better as the odds fellow. He's going to be joining me, taking a look at all the games that we've got for Friday, taking a little bit of a look as to how to handicap this weekend as well, because you're going to notice when we do our final segment where I give you a sign total on every game on the baseball betting board and a little something like call, touch them all. Lots of to be determined starters. You've got a lot of teams with various motivations. Guys wind up getting held out of games just because the team is either out of the playoff race or they've already clinched, things like this. So going to be talking a little bit about that, but we do have some marquee games on the board as well, and we're going to be hitting on all those games that have playoff implications as well. And then, as I mentioned in the final segment, going to give you guys a sign total on every game and a little something like call, touch them all. First things first, always love to be able to answer your Twitter questions on this podcast, and you've got one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast, whether it be a question, comment, segment, idea, what have you. And we do get one in today, so let's dive in.
So you have questions, and Greg may or may not have any insight into them, but let's dive into the Twitter mailbag.
We get this in from Danny. You're able to follow him on Twitter at Danny877-92078, and he asks at Jr_D1, Greg, question, and I've got an answer. If tailing you this season, what number of units would you recommend having with regards to being able to back you, with regards to just having as your unit size in general is mainly the crux of this question to be able to simplify this down a little bit. I personally go with 0.3% of my bankroll being just what I normally bet on games, which if that is, we're going to throw out there the arbitrary number of $1,000 to keep things all nice, clean, and easy. That means that $3 would be my normal bet size there, and that is with regards to just everything, because that's how I wind up betting college basketball. As you know, you wind up having sometimes 150 games when it comes to those Saturdays, so you've got a lot of your bankroll out there, and well, if you wind up going 0-300 on a college basketball Saturday, well, you should probably be doing something else. I think that knitting would probably be better than sports betting, so that's why I might have taken that approach there, but that's a very safe number for me. I think that the big thing is, when it comes to an individual basis, is what is your volume? Because if you're someone that you're betting like every single one of these baseball games, if you have like 15, 20 bets a day that's going out there, you probably want to be going a little bit lower. I wouldn't recommend going much more than 1% of your bankroll. So once again, if you've got a $1,000 bankroll, that would be $10 of your bankroll. So if you do wind up doing a spread bet, like in football, for instance, if you do where you wind up laying 1.1 units to win 1, that would mean that you bet $11 to win 10, if that would be the case. If you're a little bit of a lower volume player, because as we know, the postseason is going to get started, we're going to have fewer games out there in Major League Baseball. Now, I do recommend staying true to the normal bet size that you wind up having during the regular season. It's not the time to necessarily be going all out, bet the farm on like the Houston Astros in game 1 of whatever series they wind up getting or anything like that, but let's say that you're someone that you wind up having a better 2 per day, maybe even 3, then maybe you could be a little bit more comfortable going up to more like 1.5 to 2% of your bankroll. I typically just would not recommend betting more than 2% of your bankroll. I always like to keep a consistent unit size myself. I know that many of you guys out there, you take a little bit of a different approach, but that's just my personal recommendation for this. Hopefully that wound up answering your question. If you want me to go more in depth, like I said, anything that you want answered on this podcast, 1 to 2 ways we offer in those questions, Twitter timeline, 5-star review. More than happy to dive a little bit more into depth, but that's just my personal recommendation when it comes to bet size, when it comes to how many units you should have in your bankroll, etc. And I know that this varies from person to person, because obviously a $100 bankroll is vastly different than having like a $10,000 bankroll. So hopefully I answered that as best as I could. And what we did have was a great day of baseball on Thursday. So let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
What happened yesterday? Let's go around the bases and find out.
It's not as jazzy as it was a couple days ago where you were able to say 17 straight games, but the Cardinals are 18-1 in their last 19 games. They take down the Milwaukee Brewers by a count of 4-3. Brett Anderson gets a start and looked pretty solid in the start. Gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. The St. Louis Cardinals were able to belt a pair of bombs in this one, both of them coming off the bat of Dylan Carlson, who has had himself a very nice series. His 17th and 18th home runs of the season. He's had now 3 home runs in his last 3 games, so he is starting to put it together, as the other home run wound up coming off of Miguel Sanchez, who wound up giving up 2 runs in an inning. Daniel Norris, Josh Hader, they both give you a scoreless inning, and for the Milwaukee Brewers, they do go 3 of 9 with men in scoring position, and Luis Urias has really been picking it up for this team. He gets his 23rd home run of the campaign, and if you take a look at the last 30 days for him, he's been hitting right around a 270, so he's been able to give you a little bit of something with the 400 on base. That winds coming off of Mr. J. Happ, who was not hapless in this one, giving up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including that home run, but then from there, Cody Whitley, TJ McFarland, both give you a scoreless inning, and Luis Garcia able to get the save. The Texas Rangers wind up clawing back from a 5-run deficit to take down the LA Angels by a count of 7-6. These were, by the way, going into the series, the 2 worst teams with regards to runs per game in the month of both September and all of baseball ever since the All-Star break, as Alex Cobb just gets destroyed on this one. It was more like corn on the cob, as he winds up giving up 5 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a pair of bombs. Going deep for the Texas Rangers, Adolis Garcia, his 31st home run of the season, but just his 4th over the last 35 days, and DJ Turned It Up Peters, his 13th home run of the season. Then the bullpen of Jimmy Hergoat winds up giving this one up, as he goes 1 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs. AJ Ramos is able to give you a pair of outs. Sam Selman is able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And for the LA Angels, they were able to get 5 of their runs in the first inning, going 4 of 11 overall with men in scoring position, and then 1 run after that. As for the Texas Rangers, Glenn Otto, he was on auto fire, giving up runs in this one, giving up 5 runs over the course of 2 innings. From there, Drew Anderson, who's actually been doing a good job in long relief for the Rangers, gives up 1 run over the course of 3 innings. Brett Martin and Joe Barlow both give you a scoreless inning, and Spencer Penn able to chip in their 2 scoreless innings to be able to get the job done. The Pittsburgh Pirates, who have been the worst offense in all baseball so far this year, well, they had as many runs as myself on Thursday. 9-0, the Chicago Cubs get the job done, as Justin Steele delivered 7 scoreless innings. Rex Brothers was able to give you a scoreless inning of the bullpen along Jason Adam, and for the Chicago Cubs, pair of home runs in this one. Sergio Alcantara gets his 5th home run season off of Miguel Yajur, and Yajur, you know what? He winds up giving one up to Rafael Ortega, his 11th of the season, as he gets destroyed for 7 runs, 2 home runs given up over the course of 2 innings. Guy with some good stuff, but needs a little bit of seasoning. From there, you wind up having 5 innings in long relief from Tanner Anderson, who was with the Oakland A's very recently, giving up 2 runs in the process. Aniel de los Santos, along with Shelby Miller, both give you a scoreless inning, and for the Pittsburgh Pirates, absolutely nothing doing on offense. Now with games with more playoff implications, and this one shouldn't have went the way that it did, but the Boston Red Sox found a way to lose to the poopy Baltimore Orioles by a count of 6-2. Absolutely embarrassing. Nick Pivetta winds up giving up 3 runs over the course of 4 2/3 innings, including a home run to Ryan Mountcastle, 33rd home run of the campaign. From there, Garrett Richards gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned out of the bullpen in an inning. Ryan Brazier gives you an out of the bullpen. Adam Ottavino, along with Matt Barnes, both give you a scoreless inning, and main form of offense for the Red Sox in this one. Kike Hernandez in the first inning goes deep off of Alexander Wells, 19th home run of the season. Wells would settle down from there. That was the lone run that he wound up giving up over the course of his 6 innings. You have Dylan Tate, Cole Sulzer, both give you a scoreless inning, and Joey Kriebel winds up giving up a run in an inning. So that is very disappointing for the Red Sox, who are now tied for the 2nd wildcard spot with the Seattle Mariners. So things are going to be very interesting this weekend. And the New York Yankees are holding down that number 1 wildcard spot as they take down the Toronto Blue Jays by a count of 6-2. The Yankees were down going into the 6th inning, and then you wound up having a pair of bombs in that inning to put them over the top. Anthony Rizzo gets his 21st home run of the season, and then in that inning, you wind up having Aaron Judge get his 2nd home run of the game, both of which were off of Robbie Ray, 38th and 39th home run of the season. You would also have Mr. Gleyber Torres get his 9th home run of the season, and later on in the game, Brett Gardner goes deep off of Julian Merriweather for his 10th home run of the season, as Merriweather just gives up the 1 run in his inning. But for Robbie Ray, who, if he would have had a good start, he probably would have sewed up the Cy Young. He gives up 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings. First time he's given up more than 3 earned runs in a start, in like 20 of them. He gives up all 4 of those bombs. You then wind up having Trevor Richards give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Nick Peterson, 2 scoreless innings. And for the Blue Jays, they go just 1 of 10 with men in scoring position, as the Yankees wind up having Corey Kluber not necessarily lend a lot of length. Gives up 2 runs over the course of 4 2/3 innings, but then Michael King gives you 4 outs out of the bullpen. Luis Severino, Chad Green, Aroldis Chapman all give you scoreless innings to be able to get the job done there. The Houston Astros, they wind up getting the job done. They take down the Tampa Bay Rays by a count of 3-2, as Colin McHugh winds up serving as the opener for Ryan Yarbrough, who is a bulk guy, winds up giving up 3 runs over the course of 4 2/3 innings. I believe that he's now 25-7 in his career. Coming out of the bullpen, Yarbrough is, as he winds up allowing a home run to Mr. Carlos Correa, his 25th home run season. From there, you would wind up having scoreless innings out of J.P. Fireeisen and Matt Weisler, and Peter Fairbanks was able to give you an out of the bullpen in the main form of offense for the Rays. Brandon Lau, he gets loud with his 36th home run of the season. Wander Franco wound up having his on-base streak of 43 snap, by the way. That's of significance. Lance McCullers Jr., meanwhile, he winds up giving up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, including that home run to Lau. From there, Ryan Stanek, Kendall Graveman, Ryan Presley, all able to give you scoreless innings. The New York Mets took it to the poor fishies, as the Miami Marlins wind up getting just completely dismantled by the Mets by a count of 12-3. Too little too late for the Mets offense, as they are going to be making tea times here in the next week, but Francisco Lindor was able to give you a home run, his 20th of the season, and Pete Alonso goes deep not once but twice. His 36th and 37th home run of the season, and getting back to Lindor. How about what we've seen out of him over the last 30 days? In the last 30 days, he's had 8 home runs and is hitting about a 265, so that's a little bit more of what the Mets thought that they were acquiring, and they did acquire an arm at the trade deadline in Rich Hill, who looked solid in this one, giving up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned over the course of 5 innings, including a home run surrendered to Lewis Brinson, his 9th home run of the season. For Edward Cabrera, he only winds up going 3 innings for the Miami Marlins, giving up 2 runs, all of which were earned, and every single player that wound up pitching for the Miami Marlins in this one wound up allowing a run, including Sandy Leon, who winds up coming in, and he winds up allowing a run in a third of an inning. And for Mr. Leon, I think that he's now pitched like 5 different times for the team so far this season. It's absolutely ridiculous how many times they've had to trot him out there. It has been not good, to say the least. You wind up having a bulk guy in Luis Madero go 4 innings. He gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned, and you wind up having Sean Gunther give up 4 runs while getting just 2 outs. So that was not what the Miami Marlins were hoping for. This certainly was not what the Kansas City Royals were hoping for. The Cleveland Indians were able to get a 6-1 win. Shane Bieber Fever winds up giving up 1 run in his 3 innings of work. From there, Logan Allen, pretty much as a bulk guy, gives you 3 scoreless innings. Sam Entages, along with Anthony Goose and Emmanuel Clase, all give you scoreless innings. And for the Cleveland Indians, you were able to have this team go 4 of 10 with men in scoring position, as it was the first career start of young gun Angel Zerpa, as he winds up allowing 2 unearned runs over the course of 5 innings. Actually looked halfway decent for this team, even though he had pitched most of the year at, I would say, single A ball with Quad Cities, and then at the double A level didn't necessarily look good. From there, you wind up having 2 runs in an inning, given up by Tyler Zuber. Dylan Coleman comes in for an inning, he allows a run, and then Kyle Zimmer winds up giving up a run in his 2 innings of work, and the team just wasn't able to generate much on offense, despite going 3 of 7 men in scoring position. So that was fascinating. Your slugfest of the night, game between the Detroit Tigers and the Minnesota Twins. 10-7, the Tigres were able to get the W, as Jonathan Scope gets his 22nd home run of the season. I believe just like his 5th ever since the All-Star break. He has been in a little bit of a funk there, but Nico Goodrum, who has not been having a good year, he gets his 8th and 9th home runs of the season, as Joe Ryan winds up getting absolutely lit up. Good prospect for the Minnesota Twins, but did not have it on this thing. Gives up a pair of bombs, giving up 6 runs in total over the course of 4 2/3 innings. Bullpen of the Minnesota Twins has looked better recently, but Ralph Garza Jr. wound up getting tagged for 3 runs without getting it out. Caleb Theobar, Ode Alcala both give you a scoreless inning. Nick Vincent, 4 outs out of the bullpen, and Kyle Bearclaw gives up a solo home run in his inning of work. And for Byron Buxton, who has not necessarily looked right since coming off of the injured list, he looked right in this one. Gets his 17th and 18th home runs of the season. You wind up having Brent Rooker go deep off of Tariq Skubal for his 9th home run of the season, and Skubal served one up to Josh Donaldson, his 25th home run of the season. As for Skubal, gives up 5 runs over the course of 3 and a third innings. Main bugaboo for him all year long has been the long ball, and he gives up 3 of them. But then Drew Hutchinson, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. He's now got a .177 ERA. Alex Lang, 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Michael Fulmer, a scoreless inning, and Kyle Funkhauser. He was trying to bring the funk, but he wound up giving up one of those home runs to Buxton, 1 run give it up in his inning. But the Tigers have been able to do a very solid job. 5 games above 500 ever since the All-Star break. The Atlanta Braves, they pretty much put the nail in the coffin of the Philadelphia Phillies postseason hopes. They now win the NL East for the fourth straight year, taking down the Phillies by a count of 5-3 for the Phillies. Kyle Gibson should have made the P into an S because he looked silly, giving up 5 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings, 4 of which were earned, including a pair of bombs going deep for the Atlanta Braves. Ode Soler, 26th home run season. Austin Riley's 33rd, and Ian Anderson, very solid start in this one. Gives up a home run, 2 runs in total over the course of 6 innings going deep for the Phillies. Mr. Andrew McCutchen, off of him, his 26th home run season. JT Realmuto will go deep off of Luke Jackson later on in the game. His 17th of the season as Jackson gives up that solo home run in his inning of work, but Will Smith, AJ Minter, both able to give you scoreless innings out of the bullpen. And for the Phillies, bullpen did their part. Connor Brogdon, 1 2/3 innings out of the bullpen, scoreless. Jose Alvarado, Sam Coonrod, both give you a scoreless inning, but for the Philadelphia Phillies, no postseason for them this year. And then on the West Coast, the 2 NL West teams are gunning it out, wound up both winning on Thursday, as you wound up having the San Francisco Giants take down the Arizona Diamondbacks by a count of 5-4, as Lamonte Wade's walk-off single wound up being the winner. And for the Giants, they get 26 outs out of the bullpen, with the bullpen allowing 1 run, as Scott Kazmir gets lit up as a starter, giving up 3 runs in a third of an inning. But Kervin Castro, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, along Zach Liddell, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Johnny Cueto gives up 1 run in his 2 1/3 innings, with Dominique Leon and Jose Alvarez combined for a full inning, and Tyler Rogers winds up giving you 2 scoreless innings. So for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Mad Bum's return to San Francisco was not great. He winds up giving up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a homer. Going deep for the Giants, Brandon Crawford, his 24th home run of the season. Meanwhile, for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they stranded 12 men on base when it comes to their hitting, and Joe Manette-Tipley, he winds up giving up the winning run, going a third of an inning in the process. Sean Poppin, Noe Ramirez, J.B. Wendelken all give you a scoreless inning. And for the LA Dodgers, if you wound up tailing the New York Post play of the day, the over hit 8-3 the final, as Vince Velasquez goes 4 2/3 innings. How they allowed him to go this long, I have no idea. He gives up 4 home runs, all of which were solo shots, but still gave up 4 home runs. As going deep for the Dodgers, Justin Turner down for his 26th home run season. AJ Pollock, his 20th home run season. Corey Seager winds up going deep off of him for his 15th home run season. He would get his 16th home run season later on in the game, and then you would also get a home run off the bat of Mookie Betts for his 23rd home run season. As Tony Gonsolin didn't necessarily have it in this one. He gives up a pair of bombs, giving up 3 runs in total in his 4 2/3 innings. Going deep for the Slam Diego Padres, Mr. Fernando Tatis Jr., his 42nd home run season, and Ah-Sum Kim, his 8th home run of the season. As for the LA Dodgers, you wind up having Mr. Bersuto Graterol give you an out of the bullpen. Corey Knebel, Joe Kelly, they combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Evan Phillips was able to give you 2 scoreless. As for the Dodgers, the guy that wound up giving up the other home run to Mr. Seager, that would be Austin Adams, giving up that solo home run over the course of 2 innings. And Sean Anderson comes in for an inning. He gives up 3 runs. He has been with the Baltimore Orioles, Minnesota Twins, and San Diego Padres, teams that he's pitched for, now 0-16 in his appearances. That is insane. He is the 2008 Lions of MLB baseball pitchers, and Tim Hill was able to give you an out of the bullpen. So how are we looking over the last 7 days in Major League Baseball? Well, we are seeing home teams have a nice little resurgence. 53-39 in this time span. Favorites have been doing well themselves. 62-30 straight up. Meanwhile, unders are absolutely killing it right now. 55 unders, 35 overs if you're looking over the last 7 days. If you're looking over the last 3 days, it's a little bit more even, but unders do have that lead on overs of 193 and 184. Favorites over the last 3 days, 226 and 168, so only right around a 57.4% clip. And home teams, they are 200 and 199, so about as even as it gets. And if you're looking for the season to date, home teams 1,277, 1,097. Meanwhile, favorites, they're hitting at a rate of 59.4% at 1,397, 954, and unders have a slight lead on overs at 1,144 and 1,115. So that's what we wound up seeing in Major League Baseball on Thursday, and that's what we're seeing all in all trend-wise. Now let's bring on our good buddy, Anthony Latino, aka the Odd Shark. We're going to be chatting with him just about what it's like betting this final weekend of Major League Baseball, some of the difficulties of it, and highlight some of the games that have some very big implications when it comes to these postseason teams. That's on the other side, right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Greg Peterson.
Greg is calling in a pinch hitter from the Overtime Network hotline.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. It is great to be joined by our guest as he does a terrific job as a contributor over there at 1:37 p.m. and his podcast is back. I know that he, Jeff Sheesby, and a few others contribute in high volume when it comes to this, as it's short-term, high-involvement investments. You're able to find that on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as we've got Anthony Latino joining me on the podcast. You're able to follow him on Twitter at the Odds Fellow. That is _odds_fellow all together. And Anthony, it is great to have you aboard. Thank you so much for joining me.
Definitely glad to be here. There's no better person I'd want to speak to on the home stretch of the MLB season. Grind is finally coming to a close. I can't believe it. But like I said, playoffs in fall, pumpkin beer, it's all in the air. And I'm happy to be talking a little playoff baseball rather, in the home stretch with you. So very exciting.
Well, there's a lot of pumpkin in the air. Just avoid the pumpkin frosted flakes. I don't know
that
why.
Sounds a little problematic.
Yeah, I think they went a little bit too far on the pumpkin with that. And the Peruvial pumpkin is the fact that the San Diego Padres are not going to be making the postseason. But let's talk about the teams that actually do have playoff implications, teams that might be able to make the postseason. And I'm really intrigued by this LA Angels versus Seattle Mariners series. You're going to have Marco Gonzalez going on the bump on Friday against Jose Suarez of the Angels. Right now, you're finding the Mariners anywhere between -174 and -180. And we haven't seen prices like this on the Mariners all year long. They have been priced very short because you take a look at the run differential. It has not been good for them. And how do you wind up gauging this Mariners team the final week of the season? Because, we've been talking about regression coming in for this team all year long, but now they're playing against an LA Angels team that they just seem to have quit. The offense is nowhere to be found. The bullpen absolutely stinks, and the Mariners have everything and a half to play for.
Yeah, and you look at the Thursday performance, right, on September 30th for the Angels, and unfortunately they got out to a quick lead. I think it was 5-0 after the first inning, and then they were up 6-3 kind of in the middle innings, and then they end up losing to the Texas Rangers 7-6. So that kind of speaks to those bullpen woes, you mentioned. But it's really tough to not back the Mariners, even, at this price, and the price obviously showing some strength on the line that you mentioned. But this team is 41-27 since the All-Star break. Not the best in the league because there's been some hot teams and some fall from graces like the San Diego Padres that you mentioned, but 41-27, and it feels like, especially as of late, I don't know if you get this feeling too, just they've really come on. They're clinging to their playoff live. They're playing tough against division opponents like Oakland and some others in there. So it's been a fun team to watch. Definitely I think it's hard not to back them in this spot given the way they look and have looked since the All-Star break.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. And it's been very fascinating to watch the Boston Red Sox in recent weeks as well. They seem to be putting themselves in pretty good footing to be able to make a postseason charge, as it's going to be Mr. Eduardo Rodriguez going on the mound for them. And they're playing against the Washington Nationals. And if you're looking for a schedule which sets up very well to be able to make the postseason, well, play the poopy Baltimore Orioles and the Washington Nationals in the final week of the season, as Josh Rogers is going to be going for the Nationals. Now, what I will say about the Nationals is that you can tell that this team has not given up. They've actually been able to do a relatively solid job on offense. You know that Juan Soto is going to be out there. He's going to do everything humanly possible to keep his on-base percentage going very high. But at the same time, I don't think that there's any trusting in the Washington Nationals, because even if Josh Rogers lends a good start, that bullpen at this point is ghastly bad.
Oh, 100%. I think, Rogers has actually looked pretty good since coming up in September. I think he's had 5 appearances, but then you dig under the hood a little bit and you start looking at those advanced stats and advanced metrics, or even just the matchups in general, right? So those 5 appearances were against the Mets, the Pirates, the Marlins twice, and the Reds. In the Reds game, he actually got beat up a bit. In the other 4 appearances, he looked a little bit better. But again, that's against a slumping and very streaky Mets team that, is one of those I mentioned has been terrible since the All-Star break and in the second half. And then the Pirates and the Marlins twice, which you never know what you're going to get. So when you look at some of the advanced metrics here and some of the potential regression, Rogers is sitting at an FIP of 5.39, an xFIP of 5.57. That's against his 2.73 ERA currently. Again, a Red Sox team that's coming out hot. Maybe a place to target here is a team total for the Sox or a total over in general. Rodriguez has been good, though. He's been solid in September. Again, just kind of looking at some of the recency. I think it's hard to look at earlier in the year and some of that weighted as heavily as you can with some of these things down the stretch. So in his appearances, he gave up 6 earned against Tampa, and then he's given up no more than 2 earned runs in his 4 other starts and appearances in the month of September. He's a leader for this team. And again, a Red Sox clinging to that wild card spot. If they want to stay in the mix, they're going to have to finish the job. Me, as a Yankees fan, and all us Yankee fans rejoiced when the O's stole one from the Red Sox. So I think the Nats, maybe they steal one. Like you said, they haven't given up, but I don't know if it's this matchup in particular. I think that's going to be tough sledding for Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And with Rogers, he wanted pitching for 2 years with the Baltimore Orioles, had in his 2 years with Baltimore an 8.65 ERA. So
yeah,
I think that's something's going to wind up giving there. And to your point about Eduardo Rodriguez, 5.95 ERA at home, 4.22 on the road. So when he's been away from Fenway, much like a lot of these Red Sox pitchers, he's actually been a little bit better, as we have Anthony Latino, a.k.a. the Odds Fellow, joining me right here on the podcast. And you mentioned it, you're a New York Yankees fan. This is going to be a very fascinating game with Nestor Cortes and the Yankees playing against the Tampa Bay Rays. With the Yankees currently, I'm seeing them as a minus 129 favorite over there at the Westgate. Really the only place I'm seeing a line on this game, as this is one in which you had a little bit of mystery as to the Rays we're going to be trotting out there for a starter. And I take a look at this spot, and the Rays, I'm sure, would love nothing more than to spoil the Yankees' postseason hopes, but at the same time, as we know with the Rays, they've got pretty much everything sewn up. They now have the official top record out there in the American League, so they are going to have home field advantage. So it's a really interesting motivational spot, because with the Yankees, they need every win that they can get to be able to shore up a wild card spot. Meanwhile, with the Rays, you know that they want to win the game, but at the same time, they're trying to prime up for the postseason as well.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing down the stretch. I think you hit it nail on the head, right? And baseball is a little bit different than some of these other sports. I'm a big NBA and basketball fan in general, and that's where you get a lot of load management and a lot of resting. It's a little bit different. But with, hitters, you wouldn't expect to see that offensively as much. Those guys probably want to be out there in rhythm, getting swings. Pitching is where it gets a little bit tricky. Maybe you want to set up your rotation the right way, but you might have to not do that until, the last day or two. So it'll be interesting to see how the Rays attack this. I've been lucky enough to watch this rivalry really, kind of come out of nowhere, right? The Rays were not a team to contend with. People look at them a lot differently. But if you look at what they've done over the last few years, going head-to-head against the Yankees, making some postseason runs, making some World Series, you really got to give them, a ton of credit. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm glad it's in the Bronx and not in Tampa. Sometimes that place turns into a bit of a house of horror for the Yanks. So that'll be nice to see. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the early line. Do you have an early total for this, or what are you seeing posted so far?
I'm seeing a total of 9, a little bit of juice on the over there at Westgate, but I'm seeing 9.
Yeah, so I actually lean a little bit, and I kind of had this closer to that 8 mark, maybe 8.5. So to kind of get that extra run, I think it's a little concerning because you got some boppers on both these teams. A lot of that, strikeout, home run, walk, 3 true outcomes across both squads. But look, when you look at these pitchers, Cortes has kind of been a beast. Is this the ace of the staff after Cole looked bad the other night? He only faced Tampa Bay once. The Yanks won that game in extras 3-1 back in the summer, I believe. He gave up 1 earned, over 5 innings. And then McClanahan has pitched against the Yanks twice. Obviously, he doesn't go as deep in games. In both cases, the Rays lost those games 4-3. So, I think with these pitchers, I think with the playoff atmosphere that might be in place, from Boone and the Yanks perspective, they will have a quick hook. They will go to the bullpen. It's fighting to get wins every day. So it's not like you're saving arms and pitchers to kind of wait that next game and that next day. So I do think this is going to be a tight one. I kind of like getting, like I said, compared to where I had it graded, that extra run or so. So I'll probably be looking at an under in this game, especially if it stays at 8.5 or 9 when the lines kind of settle out in the morning.
And I think that it's so intriguing to take a look at a game like this, because you do have the Rays who actually lead all of baseball when it comes to runs per game. And with the Yankees, it feels like there's no in between with this team. They're either going to put up 7+ or they're going to give you 2 or fewer. It's not really one of those cases in which you can bank on the Yankees giving you 3 or 4 runs, and then the Rays, they wind up contributing like 5. So you wind up getting like a 5-4 game for a push or anything like that. This just has a feel of a game that it's either going to be 2-1 or it's going to be something like 8-5.
Exactly. No, and I was at Yankee Stadium for a couple of those Indians games a couple weeks ago when the Yanks were kind of in their lowest of most recent lows. Talk about a streaky team. If you look at some of the splits of like every 15 or 20 games, what they've been doing. But I think you're right. I mean, I remember in that first game against the Indians, I think the Yanks came out and scored, somewhere between 9 and 11 runs. And then they gave up 11 runs the next 2 days to the Indians while scoring, something in the 2 or 3 range, right? So it was kind of that feast or famine. I don't anticipate them giving up quite as much. I think the pitching has settled down a little bit. Nestor's been really good. But like you said, that's what you're kind of contending against, right? Is that feast popping up, and maybe in the Bronx, a fall night that's a little bit warmer, maybe the balls do sail out a bit more. But I'll lean towards the pitching and the playoff atmosphere to tighten it up a bit.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch if we wind up getting these two teams squaring off in the postseason, as well as we do have Anthony Latino, aka the Odds Fellow, joining me on the podcast. And then we've got another game that could perhaps be a massive playoff preview between the Milwaukee Brewers and the LA Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw going to be going for the Dodgers, and Eric Lauer's on the bump for the Brewers, and the Brewers are finding themselves right around a plus 175 underdog as we do this, and I think that there's good value on the Brewers. Eric Lauer has given up 3 runs or fewer in 11 out of his last 12 starts. He's really been one of the more underrated pitchers in all of baseball, in my opinion. And take a look at Clayton Kershaw ever since he's come off the injured list, and he's by no means been a bum, but this is certainly not the Clayton Kershaw of 5 years ago. You can tell that injuries have gotten to him a little bit. He's seen a little bit of a dip in his velocity as well, so I take a look at this spot. I recognize that the Brewers have less to play for the Dodgers because they are slotted in when it comes to the postseason, but I still think that despite that, there is good value on the Brewers, especially with Lauer probably trying to showcase himself if he wants to be able to get one of those rotation spots when it comes to the postseason.
Yeah, 100%. And look, the Brewers just ran into that buzzsaw that was the St. Louis Cardinals rattling what I think it ended up at a 17-game win streak before the Brewers finally broke through the other night. I could probably count on too many fingers how many times I tried to bet against them during that streak, thinking the regression was coming. And a couple times was in that Milwaukee series, just in looking at some of the pitching matchups. But again, you take some of those L's plus with them taking their foot off the pedal. I think that is why they have maybe, kind of hovered around the W's as of late, but I do think that's a good number and good value to your point for that pitching matchup. And it's not like you want to walk into a matchup with another potential playoff contender. This is the time to get yourself right? You might be resting a guy here or there. Like I said, you might be setting up the pitching rotation, but I think you're still going to get really good efforts. You're going to go head to head. I mean, unfortunately for the Dodgers, they need these 3. I think the Giants' magic number heading into Thursday night is 3. They finish up with the D-backs and the Padres who may have just completely collapsed after that tough Dodgers L again the other night, another blown, bullpen game. So, I do agree with you and tend to lean at that price. The Brewers, or maybe even the Brewers run line, could be really interesting, especially with how much the Dodgers have still given up late runs or, played in some 1-run games. And if the money line is hovering around that high, you can probably get a decent price on the run line as well.
I agree with you. I do think that the Brewers are going to be a pretty solid play here. I think that this is going to be a great game in general to get us hyped up for October baseball. And this is going to be a little bit of an intriguing weekend to just gauge baseball in general, because I take a look at it as we're recording this podcast, and just full disclosure, right around 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, you've got 7 teams that have yet to settle on a pitcher for the upcoming day. We're able to make our guesses, and some of them are a little bit more educated than others, but as of right now, you've got nearly half the betting board that is a little bit to be determined at this point. And how do you wind up gauging days like this? Because you've got a game like the Padres versus the San Francisco Giants, in which there are no pitchers listed for either team at this point, which that is a big, giant difficulty. And I do think that it makes handicapping these last few days of the regular season very difficult, because we know that teams just at the last minute, they'll make changes because they want to trot out there some young guys. They're maybe trying to get rest because they unexpectedly clinch, what have you. So I do think that that is a little bit of a difficulty with just gauging baseball this weekend in general.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, you really have to pick your spots late in the year. And I would honestly advise you start doing that, almost as you get into mid-August into September. A lot of these things start tightening up. A lot of teams look different after the trade deadline. You can kind of see really what those buyers and sellers become. At that point, I think what I like to start targeting is some younger, maybe lesser used pitchers where there might not be as much data. Sometimes you can get decent prices on there. Obviously, this weekend, you could target some of those spots. I don't really know if any are jumping out. But, again, I think look for spots like that, and then really key in on, for me, at least what I'm looking at is what matters, who's been playing well down the stretch. So I will look at some of those teams, those last 10 to see how they're performing, some of the matchup data, the in-division records, if they're trying to spoil it, versus an out-of-division game might mean a little bit less. Those are just some ways to key in on it when you don't have as much of the pitching data and the pitching matchups. But my biggest advice, tread lightly. It's dangerous out there.
It certainly is going to be very much a wild card this weekend, as we're going to get actual wild card games next week. And Anthony, I know that you're going to be tuned in with all the baseball action. Like I said, short-term, high volatility investments. That's more of a football podcast. You, Jeff Sheesby, I know that you guys have a couple other contributors that do a great job with that. I know you're doing a nice job holding it down with 1:37 p.m., doing a lot of football, doing a lot of baseball. List goes on, and you always bring in whatever you join this podcast. So let the good people at home know they're able to follow you on social media and just everything that you got going on in general.
Definitely. You can find me on Twitter at @the_odds_fellow. Appreciate a follow, interaction. Let's have some fun. We'll be doing some baseball picks down the stretch, but also free plays in the NFL. And I can't believe the NBA is around the corner, so we're getting ready for that. And besides short-term high volatility investments with the old man who bets, as Greg mentioned, and I appreciate that, presented by 1:37 p.m. We also have the Dad Bodds Podcast, which we still keep going and have some fun with, a little rotating group of some good cappers and some good dads, that want to have some fun and get some free picks out there, get some analysis out there. So plenty more of that to come. And I'll just leave you with one thing. You can't forget. I saw it yesterday. I haven't bet it yet. Maybe got to look around. If the Yanks get in, they could be dangerous if they get past that wild card. Plus 600 to win the AL. I don't know if they win it all, but streaky team, could they be getting hot at the right time? So we'll find out.
And if the Yankees wind up making the wild card, perhaps the rollover mentality that you wind up taking with the Yankees on a series-by-series basis, because you've got to think that if they wind up getting into that one-game wild card, you're going to get a pretty solid price there, depending on who they wind up drawing, if that be the Blue Jays. If they wind up drawing the Seattle Mariners, you're probably not going to be getting plus money on the Yankees by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly going to be very fascinating to see what we wind up getting there. I know that Anthony is locked in on everything that we're seeing in baseball right now, doing a great job with the NFL, and once we get the NBA back, he's going to be doing a tremendous job there and always does a great job on this podcast. So big thanks to Anthony, a.k.a. The Odds Fellow, for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you a sign total on every game on the betting board for this Friday and a little something like call, touch 'em all.
Welcome back to the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson, as we're off to a quality start, and now it's time to walk it off in a grand fashion.
And we're back in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Greg Peterson. Great to have the Odds Fellow, a.k.a. Anthony Latino, on the podcast. Does a great job over there with the Dad Bodds Podcast along short-term high volatility investments. Also a great contributor at 1:37 p.m. and a great contributor whenever he's on this podcast. So big thanks to him. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you a sign total on every game on the betting board for this Friday and a little something I like to call touch 'em all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch 'em all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at @JR_D1, and this really goes for the final few days of the regular season. Might be giving you guys a little bit less on a few of these games because we're probably going to be seeing quite a few pitching changes as I'm doing this podcast right now. I'm currently seeing 7 teams that have yet to necessarily settle on a starting pitcher, so there is going to be a little bit of volatility with that regard just because teams have already clinched, are going to be benching guys, what have you. So do note that we're going to see a whole lot less of that when it comes to the postseason, but as per usual, going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games are going to be at the bottom. So we start out with that first National League game of 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we are on to Cincinnati, and they're onto the road to face off against the Pittsburgh Pirates. One Will Crow is going to be going for the Buccos, and Luis Castillo is going to be on the bump for the Reds. The Reds, anywhere between -164, -170 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Buccos, it's anywhere between +148 and +154. 8.5 is your total, over and under, both at -110. And it's going to be intriguing to see what we wind up getting out of Mr. Luis Castillo, because he's always been a pitcher that has been better at home than he has been on the road, about a point better on his ERA for his career at home than on the road, and sprung true this year. 5.08 road ERA, 3.18 home ERA. And the team in general just has not done in his road starts. 2-8 record, has given up 13 home runs at 83 and a third innings. But the good news is he's facing off against a Pittsburgh Pirates team in which, well, they don't have a lot of offensive firepower, and they wound up having a very bad showing against the Chicago Cubs yesterday. You've got a bunch with the Pittsburgh Pirates in which got a lot of guys hitting at 230 or lower for this team. Michael Chavis, Yoshi Satsuga, Anthony Alford, along Kevin Newman, all in between about a 222 and 230 for the year. Now with Satsuga, that's a little bit misleading because ever since joining the Pittsburgh Pirates, he's been able to do a significantly better job, as here in the month of September, he's been able to hit right around about a 280-ish. He has been able to belt out 8 home runs ever since coming over to the Pittsburgh Pirates, so he's been solid there. Kyle Moran is able to hit right around 260 for this team. Brian Hayes has been in and out of the fold. You got to figure that his season at some Wilmer Defoe is hitting about a 270, and then Brian Reynolds, 24 home runs, hitting nearly a 300 is nice. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, this is a team in which you've got David Bernard in the bullpen, Jason Shreve, so you're able to get a little bit of something there. But the Reds, even though they're knocked out of playoff contention, they have been still giving you an honest effort the last couple days. The offense has really been the bugaboo for this team, which I find to be very ironic. On the road, they have been ghastly bad. Meanwhile, at home, they wound up scoring 7+ runs in each out of their last 4 home games. So you've got to be gauging this on a game-by-game basis. And when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds, they've had some unexpected difficulties when it comes to the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm not sure why, but I think that this team is going to be hungry to be able to end the year on a high note, as you do have a trio of guys with at least 30 home runs: Nick Castellanos, Joey Votto, and Eugenio Suarez. And for Suarez, he has really gotten hot here in the month of September. You take a look at it over the last 3 days, a .355 batting average, so he's been doing some nice things there. Jesse Winker, Long Taylor, Naquin have been quite banged up for the team, so Jonathan India at the leadoff spot with a .375 on base, 21 home runs has really been big for the team. Tyler Stevenson, he's been solid, right around .365 on base. Tucker Barner has seen a little bit of regression, still hitting at .250 overall, but you take a look at him over the last 3 days and he's been batting a .170. But for the Reds, Luis Cessa has been solid out of the bullpen. Michael Givens has been giving you some good innings, and this is a team that over the last 3 days, they do rank the top 10 when it comes to bullpen ERA, and I think that Will Crowe is going to get touched up once again in this start. You take a look at Crowe, and it has not necessarily been going too well for him so far this year. A .577 ERA at home, a .507 ERA. You give it up 10 home runs in 55 innings. On the road, it's actually 15 bombs in 55 and 2/3 innings, and opponents are still hitting about a .265 off of him at home. At home, he's given up right around 5 walks per 9 innings, so I do think that this is a good spot for the Redlegs. I set them on the money line, more around a -178. If you're taking a look at the run line at Westgate, I'm finding this as a -115. A lot of places don't have run lines up right now, but I was willing to lay up to a -122, so I'm going to be taking the run line of the Reds, set this all at 8.7, so we're going to be going over as well. 953 and 954 on the betting board. The New York Post play today is the Philadelphia Phillies hitting the road face-off against the Miami Marlins. Sandy Alcantara is going to be going for the Fish. Ranger Suarez is going to be going for the Philadelphia Phillies. Currently, I'm only finding this at the Westgate. Total on this game is 7.5, with the over at +105 and the under at -125. And you're finding the Miami Marlins -121 favorites, +111 on the Philadelphia Phillies. And my New York Post play of the day is going to be the under. I wound up saying this sold out at 6.6 personally. You take a look at Ranger Suarez. He's coming off a complete game shutout of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And, well, we know the Pittsburgh Pirates are scoring the fewest runs per game, but the Miami Marlins are actually not too far behind. And you take a look at Suarez. He's given up 3 runs or fewer in all 38 of his appearances so far this year. And you just take a look at what this guy has done. Here in the month of September, he's got a .41 ERA. He's won at least 6 innings in each out of his last 4 starts, giving up 2 runs or fewer. Now, the unfortunate part is the Phillies are 2-3 in his 5 starts here in the month of September, despite the fact that he has been absolutely lights out, but he's done his part. Then you take a look at Sandy Alcantara, and he has been tremendous at home. As we know, Miami, a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, just 2-5, but he has a .217 ERA at home. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. 7 home runs surrendered in 99 and 2/3 innings. Opponents are getting a .195 off of him when he's in Miami. So I think that both of these guys are going to be able to do a relatively solid job. You take a look at the Miami Marlins, and you don't have a lot of guys going yard for you, as Jesus Aguilar is on the injured list. Jazz Chisholm has been able to give you a little bit of power, along with Jesus Sanchez. Both of these guys are giving you right in the neighborhood of about 14 to 17 home runs. With Mr. Sanchez, you take a look at him over the last 3 days, and he's been hitting right around at .265. He's got 8 home runs in that time span, so he's been able to give you a little bit of something. Lewis Brinson went deep yesterday, but he's only in a .230. Brian De La Cruz, ever since coming off the injured list, is sitting below the Mendoza line of a .200. Lewin Diaz, along with Eddie Alvarez, you're able to throw in there a couple guys like Austin Jackson as well. They're all hitting at .215 or lower, so it's very brutal. And for the Miami Marlins, this is a team that they're right around 10th in the big leagues when it comes to bullpen ERA, so they've been solid there. Anthony Bender, Richard Blyer have sub-3.5 ERAs. You've been able to get a little bit of something out of Steven O'Kurt as well. I like the way that he's pitched, with right around 2.35 ERA, and even Zach Pop over the last 30 days, he's gotten his ERA below 4. And then you take a look at the flip side and what you're going to be able to get out of the Philadelphia Phillies, and their bullpen has been rocky, to say the least. They've not been able to get anything out of Archie Bradley because he's now on the injured list. Cam Bedrosian has been absolutely terrible. Jose Alvarado has actually been one of the better pieces for the team, and over the last 30 days, Ian Kennedy has not been bad. His beginning of his tenure with the Philadelphia Phillies was really bad over the last 15 days. 1.23 ERA ERA over the last 30 days, more like a 3 ERA. So he's starting to rein it in a little bit in a close game. So that's something that you're able to rely upon. And then you just take a look at this Philadelphia Phillies offense, and where in the world is it right now? I mean, they have scored a combined 3 runs in their last 4 games, 3 runs or fewer in each out of their last 5. If you date it back, they have scored 4 runs or fewer in now 11 out of their last 13, and I think it's now 12 out of their last 14 for that matter. Bryce Harper has been amazing. He's given the team 18 home runs ever since the beginning of the month of August, but nobody is helping him out. Gene Segura is sitting in the pocket of about a 290. Odubel Herrera, along JT Realmuto, both hitting right around at 265, but then you got Didi Gregorius, Andrew McCutchen, both hitting a sub 220. With McCutchen, he has been able to give you 25 home runs, 334 on base, but you need Ronald Torreyes, Freddie Galvis, someone to be able to step up for the team, and you're not finding that, which is why the New York Post play of the day is the under in this spot. And I do think that Suarez is actually going to give a little bit of a better start than Alcantara. You just take a look at this Miami Marlins lineup. I don't think that they have enough firepower, so I did wind up saying the Phillies as a favorite here, actually up to a minus 132 favorite. So I'm going to be taking the Phillies on the money line, and the New York Post play of the day here is the under. 955, 956 on the betting board. The New York Metropolitans hit the road face off against the Atlanta Braves. Scotty Yanoa is going to be going for the Bravos, and you've got Tyler McGill on the bump for the Mets. You're finding the Atlanta Braves anywhere between minus 151 and minus 170 favorites. Meanwhile, plus 141 to plus 150 is your price on the Mets. 8.5 to 9 is your total on the 9. Under is minus 120 and the over is even. On the 8.5, over is minus 115 and the under is minus 105. And you take a look at Mr. McGill, and he wound up having a very good start to his New York Mets career. I believe that he wound up giving up 2 runs or fewer in 5 out of his first 7 starts. And ever since then, it's not great. He has given up at least 4 runs in 3 out of his last 4, and he's just been getting taken deep a lot. He has now given up 7 home runs in his last 4 starts. You take a look at what he's done in the month of September, and it is no bueno. A 7.20 ERA, given up 7 bombs in 20 innings, so that is a big giant issue. And you take a look at Mr. McGill, 4.91 road ERA, 4.69 home ERA, so he's been relatively consistent in both. 9 bombs given up in 36 and 2/3 innings away from home. 10 bombs in 46 innings given up at home. And then you take a look at Yanoa, and you know what? He's got some big home and road splits. This is a man that is a 5.49 road ERA. Meanwhile, a 2.60 home ERA. He's given up 5 home runs in 45 innings in Atlanta, 8 bombs in 41 innings on the road, and opponents are getting a $1.68 off of him in Atlanta compared to a 2.70 on the road. The Atlanta Braves, they seem to have clinched a lot of stuff, but I do think that there might still be a little bit of motivation here. And you just take a look at the Atlanta Braves. You've got a quadrant of guys with at least 30 home runs. Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, Austin Riley, along with Adam Duvall. And for Riley and Freeman, both of these guys hitting in that pocket about a 300. Dansby Swanson, 27 bombs. He's hitting about a 250 ever since Ode Soler has come to the fold. He's hitting about a 270 for the Atlanta Braves, so he has been able to find some success. Even when you've tried it out there, Eddie Rosario has been able to do a solid job in the outfield, and this is an Atlanta Braves team that ever since the All-Star break, they've got a top 8 bullpen with regards to ERA. Luke Jackson has been able to give you some good innings. You take a look at Tyler Madzik ever since the beginning of the month of July. He's got an ERA that hovers right around 2. You take a look at AJ Minter, and over his last 6 appearances, he has not allowed a run, so that's a good sign for the team. Richard Rodriguez has been solid. And then for the Mets, I will say Aaron Loop has been absolutely tremendous for this team out of the bullpen. Miguel Castro has had his ups and downs, but he's been relatively solid. Even someone like a Trevor May has been able to go out there. He's been able to do his job over the last 3 days. He's got a $1.93 ERA, so I do think that you're going to get a much better start out of Yanoa, which is why I just can't take a look at the Mets in this spot, even though you might have a little bit of diminished motivation here for the Braves. Set the total at 8.7, so I'm going to be taking a look at the 9 under personally, because I do think that we're going to see a lot of 9s pop. If we do wind up getting more consensus 8.5, then I might consider an over, but I'm thinking right now I'm going to be taking the 9 under. And when it comes to the spot, wound up saying the Braves as more around about a minus 180 favorite. And if you're taking a look at the run line, getting it anywhere between a plus 115 to a plus 125. So I'm going to take that Braves run line to go along with a 9 under. 957, 958 is currently off the board as the Chicago Cubs hit the road to face off against the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Cubs have yet to announce a starter. Meanwhile, it will be Dakota Hudson on the bump for the St. Louis Cardinals, and you're going to have a trio of these games, so buckle up for safety here. But right now, I'm seeing on ESPN Zach Davies, and if it is Davies versus Hudson, setting the St. Louis Cardinals as a minus 197 favorite on the money line, minus 114 on the run line. And it's a case in which a 9 or lower, I'm going to be taking a look at the over 9.5 or higher. I'm going to be taking a look at the under. And what's intriguing about Dakota Hudson is that we wound up seeing him in his last appearance, wind up piggybacking off of Jack Flaherty, and Flaherty actually wound up pitched out of the bullpen for the St. Louis Cardinals a few days ago, so it's going to be very intriguing to see what happens there. But in Hudson's first relief appearance, I guess you could say 3 2/3 2/3 innings, he wound up giving up 2 runs, looked relatively solid against the Cubs, and he was really coming into his own before injuries wound up cutting last season short from. And then if you do wind up getting Zach Davies, he has been absolutely terrible for the Chicago Cubs. You take a look at him, and he's actually been a little bit more respectable on the road. A 6.48 home ERA, a 4.83 road ERA, giving up 4 bombs and 63 and a third innings on the road compared to 21 and 84 and 2/3 innings at home. I'm not sure how that works out, but somehow, someway it does. But you just take a look at Davies here in the month of September, a 15.32 ERA. Yeah, he's given up at least 4 runs in every one of his starts here this month, and it's just not going well in general as the command is out there as he's given up 8 walks per 9 innings this month as well. Then you take a look at the Cubs, and you do have a little bit of firepower with the lineup. We wound up seeing that come out against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Rafael Ortega's hitting about a 290 for the team. Frank Schwindel, he's got 8 home runs over the last 3 days for this bunch. He's been able to do a great job hitting a 332. The 225 batting average for the year for Ian Happ is a little bit misleading because you take a look at him ever since the beginning of the month of August. He's been able to slug out 14 home runs, and over the last 3 days, he's hitting at 323. So he has actually been able to do a very good job for the team. But then you've got both of the Romines, David Bodie, Sergio Alcantara. List goes on and on of guys. They're not doing much for you, but Nick Martini, Matt Duffy, both of these guys in between about a 270 to 280. Then you take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals, and this is a team that they have put it together at just the right time. You have been having a couple guys, with a couple in and out injuries like Umando Sosa, but you take a look at it, you've got Tommy Edman, Dylan Carlson, Nolan Arenado, along with Yadier Molina, all hitting about a 255. 280, 270 for this bunch. Tyler O'Neill, he's been able to hit 280. He and Paul Goldschmidt both have between 31 and 32 home runs, and Paul Goldschmidt, ever since the beginning of the month of July, has just been on an absolute tear, hitting like a 345. It's been absolutely ridiculous to see in the St. Louis Cardinals bullpen. Yeah, it's been pretty top-notch recently. You've been able to get good innings out of Luis Garcia. Ever since Alex Reyes was pulled as a closer, he's been able to do a very good job in the middle innings. CJ McFarland has been solid as well. So I take a look at this game at 9 or lower. I'm going to be taking a look at the over 9.5 prior to the under, and I wound up saying the Cardinals as a minus 197 money line favorite, minus 114 on the run line, 959, 960 on the betting board. Another game that's off the board. Colorado Rockies hit the road to face off against the Arizona Diamondbacks as Humberto Castellanos is currently listed on ESPN, not on the betting board though. Meanwhile, John Gray is going to be going for the Colorado Rockies. If we get Gray versus Castellanos, setting the Rockies at minus 143, and this is going to be a total in which in 8 or lower, I'll be taking a look at the over 8.5 or higher to the under. With the Rockies, they rank in the bottom 5 when it comes to runs per game scored on the road, but you take a look at the Rockies and they're 18 and 17 in their last 35 road games. This after they started the year 6 and 33 on the road, so there's actually been value post All-Star break in betting on the Colorado Rockies on the road, and there's been no value in betting on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Home, road, neutral field, Planet Pluto, they have just stunk all the way around, and it's because you've got absolutely no power in this lineup. You take a look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, their leaders in home runs are Ketel Marte and Carson Kelly, who both have 13 home runs. Stolten, Varsho, Pavin Smith, they've chipped in their 11 home runs. It seems like Josh Rojas might be a little bit injured, so you really have been trotting out their guys like Guillermo Vargas for at-bats, and it's just not going well for you. I will say, their young guy in Geraldo Perdomo, who was mentioned by William Bohr on this podcast a few days ago, intrigued to see him, but you don't have a lot with this Arizona Diamondbacks team. And then you take a look at the bullpen, and Tyler Clippard is right now just fighting for survival out there in the big leagues. He's actually not been too bad. He and Joe Manat-Tipley, sub-4 ERAs along with Noe Ramirez, but Caleb Smith is a failed starter that they're using out of the bullpen. Taylor Widener, Brett DeGeiss's ERA is hovering right around about a 7.5. It's just been terrible. And then you take a look at the flip side for the Colorado Rockies, and this is a team that they've been bad on the road for much of the year, but they've been able to put it together a little bit more recently. Now you take a look at the road splits and the road splits only, so this is not counting everything. This is just them on the road, and you haven't been able to get a lot out of many of these guys, but you do have a couple guys that have been able to step up their game, as you do have a guy in Brendan Rodgers who's hitting right around 280 on the road. Remy Tapia is back. He's been hitting about a 255, and you take a look at it, Brendan Rodgers, 12 home runs on the road so far this year. He's actually been very good with that regard. Trevor Story has 13 of his home runs on the road, hitting right around the Meadows line, but you've been able to get a little bit of something there. And then when it comes to the pitching for this team, Daniel Bard has been terrible on the road. He's got about an 8.5-ish ERA, but you take a look at John Gray, and on the road, he's got a respectable 4.59 ERA. Now, no question he's been a little bit better at home, as at home he's posting up an ERA more like a 4.02, but he's been able to limit our contact on the road. 6 home runs given up in 66 and 2/3 innings. Opponents are at 279 off of him, but fortunately he's going up against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who absolutely stink. So I wound up saying the Rockies in this spot as a minus 143 favorite, because you take a look at Humberto Castellanos, and though the Arizona Diamondbacks are now 3-2 in his last 4 starts, I think massive regression has coming in. This is a guy that's got 25 strikeouts in 40 innings along with 14 walks, and yet he's posting up an ERA by 4.28. Something just doesn't add up here. He has got a big giant difference between his fielding independent and his ERA. I think that's going to really come to a head here. He's actually got a 4.43 home ERA compared to a 4.12 road ERA, but opponents are at 2.84 off of him. Very much a pitch to contact guy, and I think that this is a good spot for the Rockies. So set them as a minus 143 favorite. 8 or lower, going to be taking a look at the over 8.5 prior to the under. 961, 962 on the betting board. The San Diego Padres hit the road to face off against the San Francisco Giants. Anthony DeScalfani is projected on ESPN to go for the Giants. Meanwhile, Joe Musgrove for the Padres, but the betting board has nothing for either team, so this game is completely off the board. And if we do wind up getting Musgrove against Anthony DeScalfani, the book of Greg Peterson makes the Giants a minus 167 favorite. Now, if we do wind up getting DeScalfani versus Musgrove, I'd be taking a look at right around a plus 115 to a plus 120 on laying a run and a half with the Giants. And this is another spot in which in 8 or lower, I'm going to be taking a look at the over 8.5 or higher to the under. Really, the only Padres starter that has been able to give this team anything whatsoever recently has been Joe Musgrove, as he has been relatively solid for this team. A 3.22 ERA, a 11-9 record. You take a look at him on the road, 3.54 road ERA compared to a 2.92 home ERA. He has certainly done his job. He has given up right around 1.3-ish home runs per 9 innings on the road, but opponents are only hitting a 2.05 off of him. His walks per 9 rate hovering right around 3. He's been able to give you some good starts. Anthony DeScalfani, meanwhile, he's actually been a little bit better when he's been on the road so far this year compared to at home, but relatively equal. 3.33 home ERA, 3.22 road ERA, and this is a man that in his 4 starts against the San Diego Padres, a 3.13 ERA, has only been taken deep twice in 23 innings against the Padres overall at home. He has given up 4 home runs in 67 and 2/3 innings, so he's certainly been able to do the job. And you take a look at him, a 2.67 ERA here in the month of September after he wound up having right around a 6 ERA in the month of August, so he's been able to shape up, giving up 3 runs of fear in now each out of his last 8 starts, so he has been able to do a nice job reining it in. He's given up just 1 home run in his last 5 starts as well. And then you take a look at the San Francisco Giants, and you've got a whole bunch of mashers in this lineup, as you've got Buster Posey, Lamonte Wade, you're able to throw in the Chris Bryant, Brandon Crawford, list goes on and on of guys giving you at least 18 home runs. Mike Yastrzemski only hitting right around at 225-ish, but he's giving you 20 plus home runs. Wilmer Flores has went deep 18 times. Evan Longoria is hitting right around about at 275. He's giving you 13 home runs and 240 at-bats, so rock solid team even without Brandon Belt. And then the Giants had the number 1 bullpen with regards to ERA in baseball. Jarlin Garcia has been able to give you some good innings. Kervin Castro, ever since getting called up, has been absolutely amazing. As I'm recording this, has yet to give up a run. You've been able to have Dominic Leon give you a sub-2 ERA as well. And then you take a look at the San Diego Padres, and going into the month of August, this team had the number 1 bullpen ERA in the big leagues, but now you've got Emilio Pagan giving up 7 home runs in 8 innings so far this month, and things have just went completely off the rails. Bullpen mismanagement has been rampant with the Padres. They're going to be looking at guys like Javi Guerra, Ross Detweiler out of the bullpen. Sean Anderson has been so bad that in every one of the games that he has appeared in, his team has lost. It is not even kidding here. Every single game, and he's been with multiple teams. He has appeared in 15 games. When he appears in games, the team that he's on is 0-15. So I take a look at the spot, and if he's out there, I'll probably be advising a live bet, which I never do. And you take a look at the Padres. They've been resting Fernando Tatis Jr. a little bit. He was in the fold yesterday, 41 home runs, hitting about a 280 for this bunch. You've also got Manny Machado hitting at 280. He's went deep 28 times. This is a team that they're still trotting out there some solid guys. Jake Cronenworth wound up being out of the fold yesterday, so you wound up getting guys like Jake Marisnik. I think that they wound up having Webster Rivas out there at the catcher's spot. Sung Kim, all these guys are at 220 or lower. And I do think that for the Padres, they're going to be playing some of their regulars. I think that they're going to be playing some of their guys that, well, they're going to be trying to get a little bit of a look at them. So this is why I'm going to be setting the Giants as a relatively sizable favorite. And like I said, an 8 or lower to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. But certainly want to see both of these guys confirmed and a little bit more with the lineup before setting that in stone. 963, 964 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers hit the road face-off against the LA Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw going for the Dodgers. Eric Lauer is going to be on the bump for the Brewers. We're seeing money coming in on the Dodgers as they are now anywhere between minus 190 and minus 206 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Crew, you're going to be getting them anywhere between a plus 163 and a plus 180, and your total on this game between 7.5 and 8. On the 8, you're finding the over anywhere between a minus 105 to a minus 115, and the same goes to the under. And we're seeing a couple 8.5s now as well. With the 8.5, under is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The over is anywhere between even a minus 105, and we're seeing a 7.5 out there. The over is minus -120 on the 7.5, and the under is even. So you've got anywhere between 7.5 and 8.5. As I'm taking a look at this right now, I'd wind up setting this total at 7.7. So I'm going to be taking a look at one of the 8s. If I get lucky, 8.5 under, and I wound up setting the Brewers as a +151 underdog. So I do think that there is some good value here with Milwaukee, because though the Brewers have everything sewed up with regards to their postseason actual seeding, you've got a guy in Eric Lauer who's been absolutely incredible for this team recently, and you've got to have that feeling that he is pitching for a playoff spot. This is a man that has given up now 3 runs or fewer in each out of his last 12 starts. He has really been doing a good job when it comes to both home and on the road. You take a look at his splits, and at home he's got a 3.12 ERA, actually a better ERA on the road with a 2.66, has given up 8 home runs in 47 and a third innings on the road, but opponents are hitting just a 2.09 off of him. His walks per 9 rate hovers right around about a 2.8, and then you take a look at Clayton Kershaw, and he didn't look right in his last start, giving up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned against the Arizona Diamondbacks in a loss. This is someone that is making his 4th start since coming off of the injured list, so you want him missing about 2 months with that, and he's been getting tattooed quite a bit at home. He has given up, I believe, now 21 home runs in his last 18 home starts, so that's been a little bit of an issue overall this year. 9 bombs given up in 62 and a third innings at Dodger Stadium. Opponents are hitting just a 207 off of them, but I think that might rise a little bit. You take a look at this LA Dodgers team, and no question, you've still got a whole bunch of managers out there, and this is a team that they want to avoid the wildcard game if at all possible. AJ Pollock, Justin Turner down for what? Trey Turner down for what? Will Smith, Mookie Betts, Max Muncy, all these guys have been able to give you at least 19 home runs so far this year, and all these guys aside from Muncy hitting at least a 260. Chris Taylor has been able to give you 20 home runs. You take a look at the lineup yesterday, among position players, you had one of them hitting below a 249, and that would be Cody Bellinger. So you've got a whole lot of that going on, and for the Dodgers, they do rank number 2 when it comes to bullpen ERA. Phil Bickford, Justin Brule, even someone like an Alex Vesia, these guys have been able to step up. Evan Phillips has actually been able to give you a couple good innings as well. Joe Kelly has been solid for the team. Kenley Jansen seems to be reining it in, but you do take a look at the Brewers, and you still have Josh Hader out there at the back end now. This is a team that is currently without Devin Williams, along Jake Cousins. Both of these guys are on the injured list, and Brad Boxberger's been a hot mess over the last 30 days, right around 9 ERA, but Aaron Ashby is a little bit of a super reliever that can do a little bit of everything for this team. And you take a look at the Milwaukee Brewers, and whenever Willy Adames is out there, this team has been absolutely incredible. Willy Adames has led the team to a 63-32 record when he's out there on the field, 31-32 when he's off of it. So that is how big he is. Ever since getting to Milwaukee with the Brewers hitting about a 285, he has been really the heart and soul of this team. And then you take a look at Eduardo Escobar, along with Tyrone Taylor, Jace Peterson, Lorenzo Cain, Luis Urias. All these guys hitting between a 245 to 255. Aviseo Garcia has been able to give you 29 bombs. He's hitting about a 265, and Eduardo Escobar has been able to go deep right around 28 times himself. So you've got a lot of firepower there. I do think that the Dodgers should be a favorite, but I think that this is a little bit too lofty, and I do think that there is a lot of motivation here for Eric Lauer. So I'm going to be taking the plus price with the Milwaukee Brewers, and like I said, 8/8.5, going to be taking a look at the under there. 965, 966 on the betting board. The New York Yankees are going to be playing the Tampa Bay Rays. Shane McClanahan is going to be going for the Rays, and Nestor Cortez is going to be on the bump for the Yankees, and the Yankees find themselves at -129 at Westgate, really the only place I'm seeing a line currently. Meanwhile, at the Rays, +119 is your price, 9 is your total, over is -120, and the under is even. And I take a look at the spot, and I think the wrong team is favored. I wound up saying the Rays as a -111 favorite. I recognize that the Rays have a lot of things sewed up at this point, but Shane McClanahan, another guy that is pitching for a rotation spot, and he has been rock solid for the Tampa Bay Rays all season long. You take a look at this gentleman, and he has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all but one of his starts, dating back to, ironically enough, when he wound up giving up 4 runs to the New York Yankees on June 2nd. So in that time span, I believe that he has put in 14 starts. He has been able to do a relatively solid job with that regard. And you take a look at McClanahan, better ERA on the road than at home. 3.38 road ERA, 3.50 home ERA. He's given up just 6 home runs in 56 innings on the road, so he has been very solid with that regard. A guy that's able to hit 100 on the radar gun. And for Nestor Cortez, he has been very good at home. 2.38 home ERA compared to a 3.28 road ERA. He's given up 6 home runs in 41 and 2/3 innings, and that is the big thing with Nestor Cortez. You take a look at him, and he's been getting quite a bit lucky, in my opinion, because he has given up a home run in every one of his starts ever since the beginning of the month of August. He's made 10 starts. He has given up at least 1 home run in every one of them, 12 in total in this time span, and yet the team is 7-3 in them, and he's given up 3 runs or fewer in all but one of them. That is something that just cannot continue. You take a look at the New York Yankees, and they did a good job of being able to claw victory out of the jaws of defeat yesterday, as they were able to get a pair of home runs from Aaron Judge. He's now at 39 for the year. He's been able to do a great job for this team. You've also got Carlos Stanton along with Joey Gallo, who both have been able to give you at least 30 home runs. Gallo is currently dealing with a little bit of an ailment, but he was hitting like a 205 for this team. So even though you wind up losing the power, you do get in there someone like a Tyler Wade, DJ LeMahieu, guys are hitting more like a 270. Gleyber Torres is hitting a 260 for this bunch. Has not been providing a lot of power, but he and Gio Urshela are able to get on base for you. And for the Yankees, they do wind up getting a big addition to the bullpen as Jonathan Loaisiga is off the injured list. Luis Severino has been used as a little bit of a super reliever. Wandy Peralta has been able to find it a little bit more. And then Chad Green has been very reliable for the team all season, aside from when you use him in the ninth inning. 2.35 ERA in his last 6 appearances. He's able to go multiple innings, so that is very good for the team. And then you take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays, and you just got a whole bunch of guys that you're able to rely upon. It seems as though Nick Anderson is back on the injured list, but ever since they wound up picking up JT Chargois from the Seattle Mariners, he has been able to do a relatively solid job with the Rays. A $1.99 ERA. You've got someone in David Robertson who's a little bit up and down, but now you don't have to rely upon him as much because Lewis Head, Andrew Kittredge, they're both off the injured list. JP Fireeisen has been terrific for the team with a sub-3 ERA, so I take a look at this, and when you're able to pair it with a trio of guys with the Tampa Bay Rays that have at least 30 home runs, Mike Zunino, Nelson Cruz, you're able to throw in there Brian and Lau. It does make it very fearsome. You've got a Rays team here that also is leading the league with regards to runs per game. Randy Arozarena has been terrific, 350 on base. He's been able to supply 20 bombs for this team. Yandy Diaz hitting about a 260 for this team, but a 355 on base. Joey Wendell sitting at 270. List goes on and on. Wander Franco has that just absolutely massive on base streak. So feel like the Rays should be a little bit of a favorite. I set this all at a 9.2 because of all the Rays are able to throw out there. So I'm going to be taking the over in this spot, and I'm going to be taking the Rays. 967, 968 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles hit the road to face off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Steven Matz is going to be going for the Jays. Good old Timmy Determined is going to be going for the Baltimore Orioles. If it winds up being a poopy Orioles bullpen game, I set the Blue Jays right around a minus 350. I'd be willing to lay about a minus 180 on the run line. I set this all to where at 10.5 or lower, I'd be taking a look at the over, and 11 or higher, I'd be taking a look at the under. I mean, there's just no backing the Baltimore Orioles. Actually, we're seeing a Westgate line as of right now with a to-be-determined starter with the Orioles. Minus 320 for the Toronto Blue Jays. Plus 280 with the Orioles with a total of 10. I'd be taking this over, and I'm noticing with the Blue Jays, they're minus 170 on the run line. I would be willing to take that as well. You take a look at Steven Matson. He has been able to do a relatively solid job here with the Blue Jays. He's got all in all for the year a 388 ERA. Now, you always get like once a month that big old Steven Matz giant clunker, but at the same time, you take a look at what he's done here in the month of September. Nothing great, nothing terrible. A 4.21 ERA. He's now given up 2 runs or fewer if you wind up dating it back, and this is earned runs because there were a couple unearned runs in a few of his starts, but you have him giving up 2 earned runs or fewer in 9 out of his last 10 starts, so he's really been able to put it together. Walks have been a little bit of an issue recently. Here in the month of September, he's issuing right around 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but at the same time, you take a look at this Orioles bullpen, and it's not good. They wound up using up all their bullets to take down the Boston Red Sox yesterday, in my opinion, as Cole Sulzer wound up closing out the game. You've been able to get a little bit of something out of Dylan Tate, but Tanner Scott is out on the injured list. Mike Baumann has right around like a 10-ish ERA. Connor Green has been just unsightly bad for this team. He's got, over the last 15 days, a 16.50 ERA. Eric Arnold is someone that I have zero faith in whatsoever as well. Now, with the Orioles, their redeeming quality is the fact that you've got a couple guys in the lineup that are legitimately good hitters. Anthony Santander, Pedro Severino, Trey Boo Boo Mancini, Ryan Mountcastle, Austin the Sayes Kid. Along you right around at 245 to a 260 with the Sayes Kid and Trey Boo Boo Mancini. Both of these guys have been able to give you right around 20 to 23 home runs. Ryan Mountcastle and Cedric Mullins, both 30-plus home runs so far this year. And for Mullins, he's hitting at 295. He's put together a nice year. But then you take a look at Ryan McKenna, Pat Valaika, Jahmai Jones, Austin Wynns. The list goes on and on of guys hitting at 215 or lower. And then you've got a Blue Jays team that I recognize they were held a little bit silent yesterday, but got a pair of guys with north of 40 home runs in Vlad Guerrero Jr. along with Marcus Semien. George Springer is starting to look like himself. He's picked it up the last few days. Bubba Shit along with Teoscar Hernandez, both hitting right around 295 with 28-plus home runs apiece for both of them. Santiago Espinal is doing a good job of getting on base. Randall Grichuk has been able to supply 22 bombs for the team, so you've got a lot of good things there. They have been dealing with a little bit of an injury to Lourdes Gurriel, and that's tough because he has been actually one of the best hitters in baseball over the last 3 days, but you take a look at the bullpen. Adam Simber is a guy that I have faith in. You have been able to get some good innings out of Jordan Romano. Now, I will say Trevor Richards has looked very shaky recently. Over the last 30 days, he's been posting up a 284 ERA, but you go to the last 15 days, more like a 5-ish ERA, so he's had his ups and his downs, but Tim Mazza has been able to give you a little bit of something. I think that the Toronto Blue Jays should be a very sizable favorite, and if we're getting into total 10, I'm going to be taking a look at the overs, assuming that it is going to be a poopy Orioles bullpen game. 969, 970 on the betting board. The Texas Rangers are going to be playing against the Cleveland Indians. Eli Morgan is going to be going for the Indians. Meanwhile, Spencer Howard is on the bump for the Rangers. The Indians find themselves as a road favorite with Eli Morgan going up anywhere between a minus 115 and a minus 123. Meanwhile, you're taking a look at the Rangers at anywhere between a plus 105, seeing even money out there as well, to a plus 113. 9 is your total, and this total is all over the place. The over and the under are anywhere between even and minus 120, so you got a whole lot of that going on, and I laugh, but I wound up setting Eli Morgan as a minus 135 favorite myself, so I am in lockstep with this one because Spencer Howard absolutely stinks. He stinks. There's no other way that I can put it to you. I don't understand why people in prospecting have been so high on him. Ever since getting to Texas, he's got a 9.17 ERA. Overall this year, he's got a 7.04 ERA. In his home starts, he's got a 9.47 ERA. And in his starts, he has never exceeded more than 4 innings. I mean, this guy gives you like 2 great innings, and then you see a fall off. To my point, you take a look at him through the first time through the lineup. It's not necessarily great, but opponents are getting about a 235 off of him. He's given up 1 home run and 36 at-bats. Second time through the lineup. In 44 at-bats, he's allowed 4 bombs, and opponents are getting a 364 off of him with a 483 on base. Third time through the lineup, well, he's never went through the lineup twice. He's never faced someone for a third time. So that's Spencer Howard right there. Meanwhile, you take a look at Eli Morgan, and this guy is giving up rockets. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He has given up so far this year 18 bombs at 83 and 2/3 innings, and opponents are getting a 255 off of him, but with Eli Morgan, a 3.03 ERA on the road and a 7.20 ERA at home. I have no idea how this works, but in 7 road starts, he's 2-1. In 10 home starts, he's 2-6. So he's actually been significantly better away from Cleveland. And then you take a look at this Indian team. You've got a pair of guys with at least 30 home runs. Franmil Reyes along with Jose Ramirez. Ramirez has been able to give you 36 home runs. Both of these guys you're able to throw in there. Harold Ramirez, Miles Straw, they're all in between about a 255 to 275 now. Bobby Bradley, Roberto Perez, Owen Miller, Oscar Mercado, Yu Chang, all these guys are in 230 or lower, but you've been able to get a little bit of something there. You take a look at this Indians bullpen, and Emmanuel Clase has been able to do a very good job for this team. You've been able to get some good innings out of even someone like a Brian Shaw. Blake Parker has an ERA that's hovering right around 275. It's been a little bit more shaky recently, but Anthony Gose, ever since he's gotten a couple appearances, he's been solid. I will say, for the Texas Rangers, bullpen has been a little bit better for this team. Jarrell Cotton has right around 3 ERA over the last 30 days for this team. You've got Mike Fulton-Namich coming out of the bullpen, and out of the bullpen, he hasn't looked terrible. As a starter, he was very poopy, but apparently he can give you 1 or 2 solid innings. Spencer Patton has been solid for this team. You take a look at what he's been able to do so far this year, and he has been able to put it together a little bit more recently. His last couple starts in, I would say about 2 weeks ago, were a little bit rocky, but over the last 30 days overall, more like a 4-ish ERA. And then you just take a look at this Rangers lineup, and you're not getting a lot out of it. This Rangers team has been scoring the fewest runs per game ever since the All-Star break, with right around 3.5 runs per game. But now you've got Willie Calhoun back to full. Calhoun, you're able to throw in there Nate Lowe, Isaiah Canero-Falefa, and the Ibanez, lying between about a 260 to a 277. You've got Adolis Garcia, who's got 31 home runs. He's only had 4 of them in the last 35 days, but he's been able to give you a little bit of something there. DJ Turn It Up Peters, he's been able to give you 13 home runs in limited at-bats, only at 204 though, as he, Jonah Heim, Brock Holt, you've got a couple others. They're in a 225 or lower. Leody Taveras, who can forget him, but I did take a look at this spot, and I do think that the Indians just have better pitching in general than the Texas Rangers, and I think that this is going to be another unsightly bad start for Spencer Howard. So, going to be taking a look at the Cleveland Indians in this spot on the money line, and I'm going to be taking this total over 971, 972 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins hit the road to face off against the Kansas City Royals. To be determined is going to be going for the Royals, and you've got John Gant, who's going to be on the bump for the Minnesota Twins. I've currently just got absolutely nothing because we have no idea who the Kansas City Royals are going to be throwing out there. They actually got a better start than I would have expected out of Anel Zerpa, who wound up giving up no earned runs, a couple unearned runs in his start against the Cleveland Indians. But another question mark for this team is if we wind up seeing Salvador Perez or not. I'm pretty sure that his season is going to be limited to him being used as a DH, so he's not going to be behind the plate, so that's going to hurt the pitching a little bit. But with Perez, this is a man that has 48 home runs. He, Andrew Benintendi, Whit Merrifield, Answer Alberto, all these guys are in between about a 265 to a 280, so they've certainly been able to come through in droves for this lineup. But you've got nobody else that's going yard for the Kansas City Royals at this point. Hunter Dozier, Carlos Santana, Cam Gallagher, all these guys are at 225 or lower. You've been able to get quite a bit of something out of Nicky Lopez, who's hitting at 300, but certainly not a power threat. And then you take a look at the Royals, and the bullpen has actually been relatively solid, which is why it makes this a little bit of a tougher one, because if you wind up getting someone like John Heasley, I'd be setting him as probably a little bit of an underdog, but Jake Brent, Scott Barlow, these guys have been able to give you a little bit of something. Even Gabe Spear, ever since he's come up to the big leagues, has been solid. Domingo Tapia has been able to give you some good innings. So you've actually got a Royals bullpen that ever since the All-Star break has ranked in the top 10 when it comes to bullpen ERA. Then you've got a Twins team that over the last 30 days, they rank in the top 7 when it comes to bullpen ERA. But you've also got John Gant on the mound, and John Gant has been absolutely terrible. In his time with the Minnesota Twins, he has 1-4, 4.55 ERA. Walks have really been the issue for him this year. With the Minnesota Twins, it's actually not been as bad. He's given up more like 4.2 walks per 9 innings. With the Cardinals, it was more like 7. I mean, it was just unsightly terrible. But this is a guy that has been used in smaller doses recently. Ever since his start on the 7th of September, he has been used for a grand total of 3 2/3 innings. So he is sort of out of sorts. I think that this will probably be like a 3 or 4 inning appearance for him. You take a look at what he's been able to do in Minnesota so far this year. Right around a 4.29 ERA in his home starts. Has not necessarily given up the deep ball, but once again, the walks have just really been killing him. And then you take a look at the Minnesota Twins in general, and you've got a couple guys that are doing a great job of getting on base. And then you've got a few other guys that they just can't hit the broadside of a barn right now. Byron Buxton, ever since coming off the injured list, he's hitting barely above about a 235-ish. Ori Polanco, though, he has been able to do a great job for this team. He has given you 30-plus home runs. He's hitting about a 270. Josh Donaldson, 25 bombs, 350 on base. And you've even had Miguel Sano giving you north of 30 home runs. Now, with Mr. Sano, you're able to throw in there Brent Rooker, Jay Cave, Max Kepler. I mean, the list goes on and on. Andrelton Simmons. Shall we continue with Ryan Jeffers? So many guys currently hitting a 225 or lower for this team. And then you take a look at the flip side and what you're going to be able to get with regards to this bullpen that I was mentioning a little bit earlier. And these guys have been very solid. Danny Colombe has been a little bit up and down, but Ralph Garza Jr. is someone that I actually really like for this team. He's given them right around 270 ERA, $1.80 over the last 30 days. So he's come through for this team. Caleb Theobar very recently has actually been very good. Juan Minaya, Giovanni Moran. These guys have been able to give you some good innings. So it certainly is an intriguing spot. This is one in which I probably would be setting the Kansas City Royals if they wind up throwing out there someone other than Easley as a little bit of a favorite. If you wind up throwing out there Mr. Easley, then I'll probably be setting the Twins as a little bit of a favorite, but this is really a one in which I need to know a little bit more about the Royals are going to be doing if Salvador Perez winds up playing as well. So check back in the morning with Twitter feed at JRScordy1. I'm sort of leaning towards a 9 or lower being a take on the over, and it just depends on the starting pitcher as to whether or not I wind up taking the Royals as a favorite or the underdog. 973, 974 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox are going to be playing against the Detroit Tigers. Willie Peralta is going to be going for the Tigers. Lance Lynn is going to be on the bump for the White Sox. White Sox are massive favorites here of anywhere between minus 230 and minus 255. Meanwhile, your plus price with the Tigers is anywhere between a plus 210 and a plus 228, with your total anywhere between 8.5 and 9. 9 finds the under anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. Over between even and minus 105. On the 8.5, the over is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 120. The under is anywhere between even and minus 115. And I think that we're catching a Chicago White Sox team that doesn't have necessarily a lot to play for. I think that you're catching a guy in Lance Lynn that he at max is going to be going 5 innings. I think that the White Sox just want him to get primed up for the postseason. And the Tigers, ever since the All-Star break, they've got a winning record. They've been able to give you a very strong and solid effort here these last few months. I give them a lot of credit. And for the Tigers, you don't necessarily have a lot of power with these guys, but you've got a lot of guys that are getting on base for you. Jimmy Candelario, Jonathan Scope, both hitting between about a 270 to 280. You've got a guy near Castro hitting about a 285 now. You've got a couple slugs out there. Isaac Paredes along with Robbie Grossman are in between about a 230 to 240, but both of these guys at least a 335 on base. Grossman north of 20 home runs so far this year. Justin Garneau along with Nico Goodrum, Willie Castro. These guys are in between about a 205 to a 220, but you've been able to get Nico Goodrum going as he had a pair of home runs yesterday as well. Then you take a look at the Chicago White Sox, and no question, you've got a couple guys that are doing an absolutely amazing job for this team, as Luis Robert is hitting just below a 350 at this point. Tim Anderson hitting just above a 300. You've been able to get a lot of guys hitting in that neighborhood of, I would say, about a 262 to a 272 in Mr. Lurie Garcia. You've had in there Yohan Moncada along with Jose Abreu as well. And for Abreu, how about 113 RBI? He has been amazing. Not necessarily hitting a lot of home runs recently, but has been able to do a good job of giving you a little bit of this and that. And Yasmani Grandal, in the, I would say, 5 or so weeks since he's come off the injured list, he's getting a home run every about 8 or so at bats, hitting at 325 over the last 30 days. He has been incredible for the team. And then you've got a White Sox bullpen that Aaron Bummer has been able to contribute to much more so over the last 30 days. He's got a sub-2 ERA. You've had Craig Kimbrell along with Liam Hendricks do a solid job recently for this bunch as well. Garrett Crochet, it's been a little bit all over the place since the beginning of summer, but seems like he's starting to rein it in. But you've also got a Tigers team that they rank in the top 10 ever since the All-Star break with regards to bullpen ERA as well. Jason Foley, Michael Fulmer have been very good for you. Ian Kroll is giving you some solid innings. Gregory Soto, Jose Cicerno currently are on the injured list, but Drew Hutchinson has a sub-2 ERA himself, so I do think that Willie Peralta has a lot to be able to play for, and he's backed up by a good bullpen. With Peralta, he's really given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all but pretty much one of his starts so far this year. You take a look at it, and he has given up 4 earned runs over the course of his last 4 starts. Has not allowed a home run in any of them. Now, walks have been a little bit of an issue. He's given up right around 3.6 walks per 9 innings, but this is someone in Willie Peralta. You take a look at the name, and you think this guy stinks, but he's actually been halfway decent here for the Detroit Tigers. I do recognize that his ERA is at 2.16 at home versus at 3.64 on the road. He's been relatively solid, so I do take a look at this spot. I was willing to take anything above a plus 175, so we're going to be taking a shot here on the Tigers. Also want him setting the solid at 8.2, so diving under along with the Tigres. 975, 976 on the betting board. The Oakland A's hit the road to face off against the Houston Astros. It looks like it's going to be Framber Valdez who winds up going for the Astros. This is not confirmed as I do this podcast, so he's going to be going up against Sean Manaea of the Oakland A's, and if it does wind up being Valdez versus Manaea, setting the Astros at home as a minus 161 favorite, plus 118 on laying a run and a half on the run line, a 9 or lower. I'd be taking a look at the over, 9.5 or higher. I'd be taking a look at the under. Now you take a look at the Oakland A's, and boy, things have really hit the fan for them. It has not been good recently, and you take a look at Sean Manaea, and it has not been good for this Oakland A's team. Now, what I will say about Manaea is that he's been relatively consistent home to road. 3.90 home ERA, 3.99 road ERA. He's given up 10 home runs in 76 and 2/3 innings away from home, 15 bombs in 97 innings at home, and opponents starting at 234 off of him on the road compared to more like a 269 at home. But you just take a look at it, and oh boy, it has not went well. He's given up at least 4 runs in now 3 out of his last 6 starts. Here in the month of September, he's been able to rein it in a little bit more, a 3.77 ERA, at a 9.90 ERA in the month of August, and he's just given up the deep ball right now. He has given up a grand total of 11 home runs over the course of his last 10 starts, so that has really reined in on him. And then you take a look at Framber Valdez, and he's been a very consistent pitcher at home and on the road. He has certainly been able to get the job done as you take a look at him for the season, a 2.98 ERA. Biggest bugaboo with him is the walks. He's given up right around 4.5-ish walks per 9 innings, but you take a look at him at home, and he's actually been a little bit worse than on the road. 3.12 home ERA compared to a 2.88 road ERA, but has given up just 5 home runs in both environments. Opponents starting at 2.19 off of him when he's in Houston. He's backed up by a bullpen that is relatively solid. Kendall Graveman has a sub-2 ERA for the year. Ryan Presley has been able to do a solid job. We've seen Christian Javier be used as a little bit of a do-everything sort of guy. Ryan Stanek has been able to give you good innings along with Blake Taylor. Then you take a look at the Oakland A's, and over the last 45 days, this team has been a bottom 7 bullpen in the big leagues. You've really seen it come through with guys like a Jake Diekman start to regress, Lou Trevino, Sergio Romo. These guys have been terrible in recent weeks. James Caprillion has been relegated to the bullpen, and he has not been doing well there. And then you take a look at the lineup, and you've got quite a few guys doing a great job of getting on base for you. All these guys have at least a 345 on base. Sterling Marte of the Marte Parte, Josh Harrison, Mark Hanna, Tony Kemp, Matt Olson. So that has been good. And for Olson, he's been able to slide the boom. 38 home runs, 109 RBI. The big issue with Matt Chapman is that he's just not getting on base for this team. A 211 batting average. You take a look at what he's done here in the month of September. He's hitting a $141 now. He's been able to supply home runs, 13 home runs ever since the beginning of the month of August, and that involves a stint on the injured list, but he's just not providing anything else at this point. You got quite a few guys that have been able to give you between, I would say, about 17 to 18 home runs. You've got Seth Brown, Sean Murphy, Mark Hanna, all in that fold, and for Mark Hanna, he has seen his average dip to right around at 235 as well, so that's been a little bit of an issue. And I just take a look at the Houston Astros. I think that they're going to be playing a lot of the regulars, and I think that they're going to have a lot of firepower while playing a lot of those regulars, as you've got Kyle Tucker, Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Carlos Correa as well. All these guys have at least 24 homers. All these guys are hitting at least a 272. Alex Bregman is hitting right around 275. He looks like the Alex Bregman of old. Yuli Gurriel, Michael Brantley, both of these guys are hitting above a 300. And heck, whenever you've thrown out there guys like Jose Siri, Jake Myers and company, they've been able to come through for you as well. So I do feel like the Astros should be a sizable favorite. I wound up setting them minus 161 at the book of Greg Peterson. And like I said, 9 or lower are going to be taking a look at the over, 9.5 or higher to the under. 977, 978 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners are going to be playing against the LA Angels. Jose Suarez is going to be going for the Angels. Marco Gonzalez is going to be going for the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners started out as between about minus 170 to minus 175 favorites. We have seen them now dip. We're seeing a couple straight minus 175 to minus 180s, but now we're seeing between minus 164 and minus 157 on the Mariners, which means that your range on the Angels as I do this podcast is anywhere between plus 162 and plus 145, and your total is anywhere between 7.5 and 8. On the 7.5, over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 120. The under is anywhere between even and minus 110. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the 8, under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The over is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. And I take a look at Marco Gonzalez, and I don't want to step in front of him. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in now 12 out of his last 13 starts. He has been able to do a very solid job of not giving out free passes, and he's going up against an Angels team that at this point is a dumpster fire. Meanwhile, you take a look at Jose Suarez, and he has really been one of the lone bright spots for this Angels team. He has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in now 6 out of his last 7 starts, so he's been able to do a solid job there, and he's limiting the deep ball as well. He has given up a combined, I believe it's now 8 home runs overall in his starts, and that's over the course of 12 starts, so he's been able to do a nice job of being able to keep the ball in the yard. You take a look at him on the road, and he's been able to do a better job than at home. 4.68 home ERA, 3.18 road ERA, given up 6 bombs in 51 innings whenever he's been away from LA, and opponents starting at 213 off of him. But even if Suarez winds up giving you 5 or 6 good innings, you then have to rely upon a bullpen that is absolutely terrible right now. Jose Quijada is right around a 5 ERA. Andrew wants this season back. He's got north of a 5 ERA. Sam Selman is someone that's unreliable. Jonathan Diaz has been terrible. Steve Cishek, he's actually been good, and Rossiel Iglesias is a nice closer, but you need to get the ball to Rossiel Iglesias. And then you take a look at the Seattle Mariners bunch, and the bullpen has been a very solid for the team. Drew Steckenrider, Paul Sewell, Casey Sadler, all these guys have ERAs that are 2.75 or lower. Eric Swanson, it's been a little bit up and down recently, but still by and large has been able to give you some good innings overall for the year with right around a 3.2-ish ERA. You've got Yohan Ramirez, who has really been able to emerge for the team. Had a couple rough outings the last week or two, but by and large has been able to do a nice job as well. And then you take a look at the Mariners, and you don't necessarily have a lot of great batting averages on the team, but you do have a pair of guys that have been able to muscle up and give you 35 plus home runs in Mitch Haniger along with Kyle Seager. Ty France, he has been absolutely incredible for this team. He is hitting right around at 293 ever since coming over from the Astros. Abraham Toro has right around 330 on base, 255 batting average. And then you just take a look at the bad batting averages, and you sort of just sit there and laugh because you got Jake Bauers, Kyle Seager, Jake Fraley, Dom Murphy, Ode Mamaloe, Shed Long, Cal Raleigh, Jarrett Kelenic, Dylan Moore, all these guys that are hitting a 220 or lower, and yet here they are. And it's just absolutely amazing to see them be able to come together like this. And for the Mariners, I do think that the bullpen is going to lead them to victory once again. I think that Marco Gonzalez is once again going to be able to hurl a nice start, much like he did in his last start against LA, where he wound up giving up 1 run over the course of 7 innings. And I think that this is a spot in which we are going to be seeing this total get just above an 8. I wound up saying this total an 8.3, so I'm going to be going over. The Seattle Mariners have been one of the best over teams over the last 30 days, and I'm going to be backing the Seattle Mariners on the run line, as right now I am seeing their run line price as good as a plus 125 with the Seattle Mariners. I was willing to take this as long as I was getting north of a plus 110, so we're going to be taking the Mariners on the run line, and I'm going to be taking this total over, and we're going to have things up 979, 980 on the betting board. The Washington Nationals play host to the Boston Red Sox. Eduardo Rodriguez is going to be going for the Red Sox. Meanwhile, Josh Rogers is on the vote for the Nationals. The Nationals are finding themselves anywhere between plus 165 and plus 179 underdogs. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Sox, anywhere between minus 180 and minus $2. 9 to 9.5 is your total. On the 9, over is minus 120. The under is even. If you're looking at the 9.5, under is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The over is anywhere between even and minus 105. And I wound up setting the Red Sox as minus 192 on the money line. If you're looking at the run line, you're finding this price anywhere between about a minus 120 to a minus 130. So you've got a little bit of a range there. I was willing to lay up to a minus 131 with the Red Sox, so we're going to be going there. This is a game in which the Red Sox must need, and I always say this about must-need games when it comes to the NFL, the college basketball realm, what have you, but if you're in a gotta-have-it game, it means that you're probably not very good to start with, and the Boston Red Sox showing their true colors, losing a pair of games to the poopy Baltimore Orioles. But you do take a look at Eduardo Rodriguez. I was mentioning it with our good buddy, the odds fellow, in that you've got a 4.22 road ERA here with Rodriguez at 5.95 home ERA. He has given up 11 home runs in 89 and 2/3 innings on the road and just 8 at home, but at home he's also only went 62 innings, so you've got a smaller sample size there. there. And the strikeouts per 9 rate for Eduardo Rodriguez on the road is 10. Meanwhile, you take a look at Josh Rogers. He's got a 2.73 ERA and a fielding independent that's right around a 5.50. There's going to be massive regression that comes in here. He's given up 5 home runs in 29 and 2/3 innings. He's been very lucky that these have all been pretty much solo shots and 2-run shots. But his walks per 9 rate is also a 3.3, and then you take a look at the bullpen, and Kyle Finnegan has given you some good innings. He's got right around 3.5 ERA. You tell that he's getting used up too much, though. He, over this last 30 days, has right around a 6.23 ERA. Ryan Harper has right around a 9 ERA over the last 30 days. Tanner Rainey has not been reining it in. Sean Nolan has probably been your best bullpen piece recently. Mason Thompson has seen some big-time regression with him as well over the last 30 days. He's got like a 4 ERA, but in his last couple appearances, he has just been getting absolutely shelled. And then you take a look at the flip side for the Boston Red Sox, and the bullpen has certainly has had his trials and tribulations, but Edekazu Sadamoto has been able to give you some good innings. Ansel Robles, after he had a really bad start in Boston, has been able to be absolutely magnificent for this team. In his last 12 appearances, he has not allowed an earned run, so give him a little bit of credit. Tanner Houck has been used as a little bit of a super utility man. And then Darwinzon Hernandez, underrated in my opinion. He has been able to give you a 3.18 ERA in his last 6 appearances since coming off the injured list, so he's been able to do a little bit of something. And then with the Boston Red Sox, you just got a whole bunch of firepower. When it comes to this lineup, led by Rafael Devers, 35 home runs, north of 105 RBI. He has been able to about a 275, and then you've got all these guys who are in between about a 290 to a 295. That is with the team in the case of Kyle Schwarber, Kevin Plawecki, Alex Verdugo, Xander Bogaerts. With Bogaerts, 23 home runs for him. You've got JD Martinez, who's been able to go deep 28 times. Hunter Renfroe, 30 times. With Martinez, he's hitting about a 285, and then you've got Renfroe hitting more in the realm of about a 265. Christian Vasquez, Kike Hernandez, both of these guys are in between about a 252, 260, and for Kike Hernandez, he's really been able to come on for the team recently. He's got 18 home runs. You take a look at him over the last 15 days, he's been hitting more like a 255 after he had a little bit of a slump towards the beginning part of the month. That Bobby Dalbec has been able to give you 24 home runs as well. Meanwhile, you take a look at the Nationals, and Juan Soto has been absolutely incredible for this team, right around a 470 on base. He, along with Josh Bell, have both been able to give you between 27 and 29 home runs, so they've been able to do their part. And got a couple other guys who are doing a good job of getting on base. Lane Thomas, ever since coming over to the team, he's been hitting right around 285. LCD's Escobar in that fold as well. He was able to get a little bit of something out of Yadiel Hernandez. He's hitting at 275. I even give a little bit of credit to someone like a Luis Garcia, after having a really bad start to his MLB career. He's now hitting about a 240 over the last 30 days. This is a man that has been able to give you right around a 275 batting average. So I do think that we're going to see quite a few runs in this game. I think that it's just going to be a case in which we see a lot of regression with Josh Rogers, which is why I wound up saying this total at 10. So going to be taking the run line of the Red Sox and the total over, and that will wrap things up for the Baseball Betting Podcast on this Friday. A big thanks to our man Anthony Latino, aka the Odds Fellow, for joining me in the last segment. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcast: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you got a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @GR_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. Name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Going to be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season on this podcast, which means coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.